When you make that shift from building a business that feels like you're banging your head against the wall to building a business you love, you will be more successful. Welcome to the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast, where being a badass has less to do with what you wear and what music you listen to, and everything to do with whether you've got the thriving online business of your dreams. I'm your renegade thinking Harvard Law grad turned online entrepreneur host, Bobby Klink. In my years building my thriving business, the most important lesson I've learned is that being a badass online marketer isn't about secret strategies or ninja tactics. It's about doing the basic stuff right and showing the F up. So each week here on the show, you'll get clear, easy to execute guidance on how to build your online business and a swift kick in the ass or two to make sure you're getting it done. Hey there, welcome to episode 178 of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. I'm excited for today's show because we're going to be talking about something that I'm pretty darn passionate about. We're going to be talking about why you need to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your particular mix of what makes you you as part of you then building your business. Now, this is a first episode. This is just me solo, but it's kind of the start of a mini series. Next week, I've got a great guest who is going to talk all about kind of understanding your creative entrepreneur type and how that fits in. And in 2 weeks, we got my friend and a member of my coaching program who's going to come in and talk all about the Gallup Strength Finders tests. I always say that wrong. Gallup Strengths Finder test. She's a certified coach on that. And we're going to be talking all about how that plays in. And I'm going to be talking about that today because I've worked with her, I've been coached with her, and I understand how it fits in. Today, basically what we're talking about is I'm asking you a question. Do you know your core competencies as a person, as a business, etc.? You may not have heard this term, core competencies, before, but it's something that normal business people would be thinking about all the time. It's part of what people would be thinking about in shaping their business and doing all of this business planning in the regular world. And I want to bring it back into our world in the online entrepreneurship space. And I want to do it because I see so many people who aren't thinking about these things, and that's a big part of why they're struggling. And me having kind of this revelation has been very helpful. So I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about kind of what is it, how does it fit into things, and then talk about some things you can do to figure this out. So that's what we're talking about. But before we dive in, this week's episode is brought to you by Badass Online Marketing Live, my 3-day virtual event happening in December, where we're going to be diving into how to build a business that you actually love and that's making you money consistently. No more struggling, no more trying to build a business you don't actually want, but actually building something where you get to get up every day and say, I love my business. And oh, by the way, I'm making some money at it too. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to be talking about what I'm calling the Badass Online Marketing Framework, which is a holistic approach to marketing that will help you find people, take them from, not even knowing who you are to finding you and then becoming a raving fan and knocking on your door and eventually buying your stuff and make the whole thing one part of a holistic plan so that people actually want to buy from you without you having to be sleazy or do anything that seems hard to you. So that's what we're going to be talking about. You can get all the details by heading over to bobbyklink.com/bomb live. And that's BOM live. bobbyklink.com/bomb live. By the way, we're going to have a whole session at that event about finding your core competencies. So we're going to be talking about a lot of the things that we're talking about here and then helping you implement it at that event as well. So with that, I want to dive into the episode. And I want to start by talking a little bit about some marketing principles. Now, in marketing and in business, there's this concept known as SWOT analysis. That's SWOT. And a SWOT analysis is where you go through and you identify strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. the way it works out, strengths and weaknesses, those are kind of personal to you as a person or the business, and opportunities and threats are things on the outside. And you can kind of tell in both of them, it's what's the positives, what's the negatives. So what a typical business would do is, as they're thinking about shaping marketing efforts, shaping products, deciding all of this, they would do a SWOT analysis. Especially before they would think about entering a new market or anything like that. They would say, hey, let's do this analysis and let's walk through it. And what it comes down to is they're trying to figure out a couple of things. And we can start with the opportunities and threats. The opportunities and threats is looking at and saying, well, when I look out in the market, is there a need for this thing? Is there a chance to really kind of capitalize on something that's not there, hasn't been capitalized on it? And if I do, what are the other threats, though, from the environment, et cetera? So this is kind of the outside. Is there a reason to be doing this? So that's kind of the first step. But then there's a next level. And the next level is to look inside. And these businesses would say, well, are we the company that is suited to fill that need, if there is a need? Because the answer isn't always, hey, there's a need in the market, we should go fill it. If the company is not suited to that particular thing, if they don't have the core competencies, in other words, if they don't have the strengths, or if they have weaknesses that would mean they can't do that, they're going to have to say, we got to pass. Even though it's an opportunity that's out there in the market, it is not our opportunity. So that's how traditional businesses do that work. I'm here for one of those sorry, not sorry moments. Very few people in the online space are doing that. Very few people in the online space are truly looking and saying, well, what are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? How does that mix of things fit with what I should be doing in the space? Maybe what I should be creating, maybe opportunities I should be taking, opportunities I should be passing on, etc. And that, I believe, is a big part of why so many entrepreneurs struggle and aren't actually enjoying their businesses. What I have found, and it's this weird thing, I have joked for a long time that I tend to stumble into things, or it just seems like that in business. One of my friends, Emily Aaron, says, I'm just living in total alignment and in a flow state at all times. And other people have noticed it too. And the reality of why that is that I have built a business around my strengths. From the get-go, I've been living my strengths. I have not been trying to build something that does not suit me as a person. Why is that? I don't know. Is it just because I've always done those things in my life? I'm not sure. My friend Anna Nelson, who will be on in a couple of weeks, would say that she believes part of it is that I have intentionally made choices, even if subconsciously, that fit with my strengths. And part of that, just FYI, we make this joke. We now have a running joke, especially on my team, but we joke about it openly too, is that I have self-assurance as one of my primary strengths on one of these tests, and I'm going to talk about it in a second. And that kind of means I have the bravado, but I think it actually does explain why it is that I've been living in the flow state. Because I have always had the self-assurance from before I entered the online marketing world to say, I don't think that person's right. I'm not going to listen to them. I know, it's weird. But because I have that self-assurance, I've never felt that I had to simply replicate something and follow some instruction manual that someone gave me and that I couldn't make something my own. I've never felt compelled to create a particular thing in a particular way because someone told me to. That's because I'm self-assured. And I know that a lot of people and again, I'm not saying this as good, bad, or otherwise, but if you just look on the test, a lot of people don't have self-assurance as highly as I do. And so I think that's part of why people feel the need to build businesses that don't suit them. So I want to make this episode be like a swift kick in the whatever to wake you up and give you permission to think through whether you should maybe just live in my self-assurance for a little bit and trust me when I say what I'm going to say, because I'm not going to tell you the particular business to build, but I'm going to give you the permission you need to maybe make the right decision for you. So there's a lot of things, and a lot, we entrepreneurs, before I get to how you apply all this stuff, we actually do a lot of kind of self-development and self-assessment things to get information about ourselves. Most of us know our Myers-Briggs type. A lot of us know our DISC profile type. A lot of us know our Enneagram type. I don't know that last one, but we do those kinds of things. But a lot of people get that stuff and then ignore it. Let me give you a great example of that. I know a lot of people who test as crazy introverts on the MBTI, the Myers-Briggs, who say they are drained by engaging with people, et cetera. And yet they build a business that requires them to be around people and have their energy going outward like an extrovert would. And I look at myself and I look at those people and I say, what the hell are you doing? If working one-on-one with people is draining you, why the hell are you building a business model around that? Or in another way, if engaging with people on an ongoing basis drains you, why are you building a membership site that requires you to engage with people on a one-on-one site? Now, maybe you can create a membership site that doesn't require you to do that, but please don't build a membership site that is going to make you unhappy to actually fulfill on it. And like, that's one example. But the bigger problem that I see is a lot of people take these things like, okay, well, I'm an ENFP or I'm a whatever, and they just say it, or I'm an Enneagram 8, or they just say this stuff, but then don't do anything with it. And so that's a big problem. But I also have a broader problem with those assessments, because those assessments, the most I think that you get is like 1 in 16. There are 16 options. Like MBTI, because you have 4 letters, 2 options each. There are 16 different things you could be. Which, that's fine, I guess. The problem is we human beings don't fall into one of 16 categories. And a bigger part of it is it can give you some broad ideas of what maybe you should be doing. Like my MBTI type, I think, is called the entertainer. I share the type with comedians and performers. And so it makes sense that I love talking, that I'm out and about, that I talk about, that I try to make light of things. All that makes sense. But that's about all I get from it. I mean, I could maybe dig into some stuff. What I have found way more helpful is the Gallup Strengths Finder. And the reason why is it is way more granular. The Gallup Strengths Finder. Now, first of all, you got to pay for it. It's not a free assessment like a lot of these other ones, but you get a score. There are 34 different strengths. And what you get when you do the entire test is you get a listing of your strengths from ranking from 1 all the way down to 34. And what that means is that there are millions of potential permutations of this particular set, because everybody's going to have a different set. Even within, if you had the same strengths in your top 10, the chances that you will have them in the exact same order quite low. And so the different and the particular ordering of things has a lot to do with helping you understand things. And the way it works is, although there are 34 particular strengths, there are 4 big areas: strategic thinking, influence, execution, and I forget what it's actually called, but it's like relationship building. And so you'll get a ranking of all your things, but then you understand which of those particular, broader categories do you lead with, and which is your secondary. And that gives you broader insight into, okay, I get it. Me, I lead with influence and strategic thinking. Now, ironically, the 2 strategy strengths are my top 2 strengths, but when you go broader, influence is my biggest. It's the one that I have the most highly rated. And you guys can probably guess this, execution is my least. So knowing those things helps me shape a lot of what I do. And now I'm going to suggest, if you haven't taken the Strengths Finders test, I would suggest you do it, because I believe it will give you a lot of insight. And now I want to talk to you a second about 3 different kind of big concepts of once you've figured out what your core competencies are, what you do with it. And let me actually step back for a second. I want to make sure that the connection is clear. The core competencies, normally you would be at a bigger business. You would say, what are the business's strengths? And that's what we should be doing as well. And what I mean by that is I know not just my scores, but also my team scores. Even if you don't know that, because we are personal brands, understanding our particular strengths is important and is in many ways the most important first step. Then understanding your teams and the group that you have around that you will help because you can kind of figure out your overall business. But you, because you're going to be the person out in front of the camera, you're going to be the person delivering, you need to know yours. So let's talk for a second now about the first area of what you do with this. The first thing that you can kind of get when you do this core competency test and look at your strengths and weaknesses is that you can understand what you bring that is unique to you. And I don't mean like knowledge or anything like that. I'm not, for example, in my world, I'm not talking like legal knowledge. That is not what I'm talking about. What I mean is kind of what is it that is in your natural wheelhouse of a strength that you can put together and see, okay, how am I different and how do my strengths suit me to make a particular contribution to this space? And this is important because one of the broader things I want you to get is that in the online marketing space, at the end of the day, we're all personal brands. And here's the bigger thing. There's this concept known as a unique selling proposition. What's like unique about you? About your, and not you, it would normally be say about your product, about your business that makes people come back, that makes them want to buy from you instead of a competitor. If you have a product business, it will often largely focus on the product itself. But we in the online space, I want you to get this. You are the unique selling proposition. What I mean by that is my legal templates, they need to meet the basic requirement that they're good, that they're easy enough to use, etc. But at the end of the day, people buy my legal templates because of me, because of my personality, because they connect with me for whatever reason it is. They have found that they resonate with Bobby Klink, and so they're going to have me help them with the legal stuff. The same thing is going to happen with coaches, with service providers, et cetera. Yes, you've got to get results, but also you are going to be your USP. And so understanding what you bring that is unique, and it's not necessarily unique, but what I mean is like that your particular mix of strengths make you particularly good at, what do you bring to the party? And when you understand that, you can start to say, okay, cool. Now I'm getting it. These are the things I bring. And this is the first piece I want you to be getting. And I want to give you some examples from me because it's easiest for me to talk about this because I've done a lot of work on this. Well, my particular combination of leading with influence and strategic thinking means, and it's not just those two big areas, but also the particular smaller areas that fit in there, that I was basically built to be someone who takes complex ideas, makes them simple. And if you think about it, a lot of what I do is that. A lot of what I do and a lot of what people have said they like about me, about the legal stuff and even about the marketing stuff, is that I can take all the noise, I can take what looks like a very complicated thing, and I can break it down and make it very simple and easy to understand. Now, that doesn't mean I'm better than people. It just means that is my particular area of strength. But here's what I want to get through to you about that. The reason why that matters is because I've leaned into that, because I'm living in that. That is what my business is built around. And so because that's what I've done, I'm living that strength. And people see that I'm good at that, and they just naturally see it. They don't in their mind necessarily say it, but they see how good I do at those things. And it means that they're drawn to me because I'm doing it. Whereas let's say I chose something where I wasn't playing up to those strengths. I was trying to play up to like execution, which is not my strength. People would see that I sucked at it. And so it wouldn't work. And so those are the kinds of things that you need to get. But I want to go even deeper. Even within my influence and my strategic thinking, some of my particular strengths, I mentioned I'm self-assured. That is one of the Gallup strengths, and it's one of my top 5 that I'm self-assured. But also I am a learner, which if you think about it, the fact that I have all of this group of strengths lets me see I will naturally be someone who's going to go out and try to learn things, often complicated things, because I feel self-assured that I can do it. And then my other strengths help me say, okay, I've learned that stuff. I've gone out and done that work. Now let me bring it to you and make it simple. So the fact that I'm taking marketing courses and bringing it into the online marketing world, and I'm taking concepts that are used by like Fortune 500 companies and bringing it here makes sense. That's what naturally you would expect from someone with my strengths. Now, maybe not as crazy as me to do it, but it just makes sense that I would be doing that thing. But also, here's something I've got to give a shout out. One of the people in my community, Kitty Bowman, always likes to say that I'm the king of analogies. If you listen to me talk, I talk all the time. I say, well, that would be like, and I'm drawing analogies and I do it in my language, which by the way, is a great technique for messaging, for copy, etc. But it's not something that I learned. In other words, I mean, I kind of learned it in a bit, but it's something that makes sense in light of my like top strengths. My top couple of strengths actually naturally say that I will see connections between things. I will draw links that other people won't draw. That's why, I could say, and again, as I'm recording this, I'm wearing my Not a Ninja shirt, but it's why like it came naturally for me. Like when I was rolling out my website last year in 2019, I could say that, thinking that you just need a fancy bell and whistle marketing technique or marketing strategy, and that's what's going to fix your business is like, being someone who burns toast and thinking all you got to do is buy $1,000 chef's knife and all of a sudden you're going to be Gordon Ramsay. Like that's something that I naturally do. I see those things. I'm like, yeah, that makes no sense. And I can take it into an outside context and I can do it. But here's another thing I want to get. And here's where I'm different than most people. Most entrepreneurs wouldn't tell you this because they don't want you to hear this. It's also the reason that I naturally can take my personal vignette stories and just naturally draw a message out of them to tie into the business point I want to make. In other words, in my emails where I tell these wacky stories, where I somehow connect getting a message from my daughter's school last year at the beginning of the year that there was a confirmed case of lice in her class. And that story to me was a natural fit for inviting people to a webinar about building an online course, right? Most people don't draw those links. I do. Now, it's not saying you can't do it. It's simply saying that I have to recognize that it comes naturally for me and it can be taught for other people, but I can't simply expect other people to naturally do those things. And this is an equally important piece of this that I'm talking about. When I'm saying you have to understand your unique strengths, part of this means you need to recognize that what you do well naturally is part of your strengths. And let me give you another example, a counterexample. I will hear people in the online space who naturally love digging into the numbers and digging into doing like, post-launch debriefs and think that's the best thing ever. And they don't understand why everybody doesn't want to do it. Well, because everybody's mind isn't wired that way. That's not their strength. And so that's something that we all have to be mindful of and recognize that we are hopefully living in our strengths, but expecting everyone else to live in our strengths probably doesn't make sense. So that's the first piece. When you know your strengths, you'll actually understand what you particularly bring to the party. The next way you should use it is to figure out what product to offer or create. And there's a couple of points in this. Number one, I started this after we kind of really got into it, talking about the SWOT analysis, and that you might look out and say, there is an opportunity to fill this need. But the first question is, are you the person to fill it? It might be that you decide, look, I'm not going to create a product because I am not the person to fill this need. Even though I see it, I am not the person to do that. But it also should shape how you put together your offer and your product specifically. And let me give you a very specific example of this. One person who did some one-on-one coaching with me, a 3-hour session, she had built a course that included some one-on-one work. And I can't remember exactly. I think maybe there was like an upsell to do one-on-one work or et cetera, but it was in this. Well, in our discussions, we discovered, I discovered, she was very candid about this, that she is a crazy introvert and doing those one-on-one sessions drained her. And so I said, well, then why the hell are you doing them? Because again, the problem with that is if you're an introvert and if doing that one-on-one work is going to drain you, it's not just a matter of saying, okay, well, I can deal with it for those, whatever, that hour, or those 30 minutes or whatever. For some people, literally, if you have to do that, it's going to drain you for the rest of the day. It's going to mean you're not productive the rest of the day, which means that by including that in your offer, even if you're serving people, what it's actually doing is a disservice to people because it means that you can't actually be productive. And again, I gave this example before. If you are an introvert and engaging with people would really drain you, then don't create a membership that's going to require you to engage with people. Now, you could create one if the understanding is your team's going to do the engagement, et cetera, but don't create something that locks you into doing it. And so I've talked about introverts. What about if you're an extrovert? And I can give this in a very, as I look back on my life, a very clear example of this. I am an extrovert. I like talking. I like communicating. Obviously, influence is one of the things I lead with. So I like to have engagements, conversations, et cetera. Well, when I started my career as a lawyer, I thought I wanted to be what was called an appellate lawyer. These are the people who come in the most traditional sense, after a trial's already happened. They're the ones who write the briefs to courts of appeals. But also sometimes they will come in and write important, like written arguments to be made at the trial court level. And I did this because in law school, this is kind of what you do. You do a lot of writing like that. So I was like, oh, that was fun. Let's do it. The problem was I didn't think about the fact that essentially meant I would sit in my office and I could go weeks on end reading, writing, researching without ever having the need to interact with another human being for my work. That does not suit Bobby. And so I got out of that pretty quickly because I was like, yeah, this does not work for me. And again, I was good at it, but I wasn't happy. And so that's the kind of things that you need to be thinking about that. But what I want to get is like, as you're thinking through your product mix and how you're going to structure it, make sure it fits your strengths. Like, for example, if your strengths are about executing, if that's what you're great at, well, maybe you ought to create a product where you're going to help people do that, where you're going to make it simple for them to execute. Maybe all of these things you can come up with a plan. Me, I'm built for messaging and strategy. Basically, that's what you would look at. And I've leaned into that. So now I have a course about email marketing, which is about messaging and doing all of those things, and influence, my primary strength. That's literally what I'm teaching people, how to influence other people. But also, and this was something after I really dug into this and worked with Anna, who's going to be here in a couple of weeks on it, my team understood my strengths. And so they suggested, hey, why don't we create VIP days where you can actually just do strategic work with people and help them with, their strategies, their messaging, all of these things, because you're very good at it and you enjoy it. And so we did. So we rolled out these VIP days and people have loved it. Because again, this is the thing that I want you to get. People love it because it's not their natural bailiwick, but it's mine. So they see me doing it and they're like, wow. like as I'm recording this 2 days ago, I had my my coaching folks. We had our call, and one of the people was like just marveling at how I named something. And to me, I didn't even think about it. I'm like, really? But it was like she thought it was amazing, and she's like, you just name things in an amazing way. And so what I'm saying is that comes from my strengths. And so recognizing that gave me an understanding of, aha, there's an opportunity out there because other people aren't as good at it. I am. I could fill that need. And so my VIP days have been a hit, and we're loving it, and we're looking to expand those. By the way, if you're hearing about this and you're like, whoa, Bobby, I didn't know you did VIP days, and you're interested and would like to work with me, just send us an email. You can just email me, bobby@bobbyklink.com, and we can start a conversation. Not meaning to sell you, but I'm just saying if that's something that sounds, ooh, I'd like that, I do it. So that's kind of the big thing. It helps you understand when you know your strengths. What product should you be offering to the market, both because you can see where you can contribute and how to structure it, et cetera. Then here's the final thing. When you understand your particular mix of strengths, you're also going to understand your weaknesses. And understanding your weaknesses is just as important. And I like to joke, I don't really have weaknesses. I like to say, and by the way, this is my self-assurance coming through. And I say this because it's kind of weird, because one of the things I'm known for is relationship building. And that's like a quadrant, like the third rated of mine, the second lowest of the 4 big areas. And so I say, I must just be really good at everything. And I jokingly say that because I know I'm not, but it's my self-assurance coming through. But I do recognize that execution is my lowest. I'm great at coming up with ideas, throwing stuff out there, but I need people to help me with the follow through, to help me with thinking through, hey, if we say we're going to do this, it means these 87 things have to be done in the next 3 weeks. Can we actually do that? And so that's the kind of thing that I'm not great at. And when you know your weaknesses, and here's the big point I want you to get, you know where to get help or what to get help with to fill in the gaps. This could mean hiring. It could mean you say, hey, I am not good at this, so I need to hire someone who is. And that's part of what I've done. My team helps me with execution now. They help me make sure that everything gets done. And oh, by the way, my community manager happens to test off the chart at relationship building or whatever that third quadrant is. So it just makes sense that naturally she's our community director because that's what she does. She's living her strengths. And so this is the kind of thing that you can start to see how you can fill gaps with team members when you know what the gaps are. But until you know the gaps, you can't do that. But even beyond that, one of the things you can do is you can look for things outside your team. For example, one of the people in my current group coaching program, mastermind, whatever you call it, I call my inner circle, is very candid. Strategy and ideas are not her strong point. All these other things she's great at. What does that mean? That means she relies upon the coaching program. She relies upon being with the idea people, with the strategy people like me and a couple other people who are in the coaching program to help her. And so this is a sense you can get. And I've made this comment, like, for me, being in a mastermind, like if I went in a mastermind with nothing but idea people and influencers, that probably wouldn't help me. Instead, I want to mix. I want that, but I also want the people who help me think about the execution, about the other pieces that I don't do. And this is where I want you to get that, finding a coach, finding a group, finding a community with people who can help you with the places where you maybe struggle is equally as important over the long term. And it could be that you decide you want to join a pay group, or it could mean that you're simply saying, okay, well, I'm not there yet, but I need to find some peers, some friends in the industry who I can kind of talk with, who can help me with these pieces. That's kind of the next level here, because you're going to need some level of competency in all these areas on your team. Now, eventually, like I said, it becomes you fill it in with team members. But until you're there, it's coaching, it's people, it's individuals, and all of that to help. So again, my question, I hope I've convinced you that you need to know your core competencies, which means you need to know your particular mix of strengths, of weaknesses, etc., and that can be a pivotal, or not but can be pivotal knowledge for you to build your business and to finally have one you enjoy, to not do one-on-one coaching if you don't want to do one-on-one coaching. Or in my case, to do that one-on-one VIP work because I freaking love it. And that is why I'm suggesting to people this. And let me give you kind of the ultimate upshot of all this. The ultimate upshot of this is a very big part of why you can't simply take someone else's model and simply copy it whole hog. It's why business in a box theory doesn't work. My coaches, like I look at them and, I'll just use two, Amy Porterfield and James Wedmore. They are people who have different sets of strengths and weaknesses than me. They have different personalities from me. So naturally, they're going to be suited to build businesses that aren't exactly like mine. And if I simply tried to say, well, okay, I'm going to simply do this and be a good student and copy exactly what they've done and follow it to the T no matter what, it very well might not work for me because that's not my strengths. Or if it does, if I make it work, I might not enjoy the business I've built. For example, another member of my coaching program, when she joined at the beginning of the year, she was doing some VA work to supplement, to make money, but she was basically trying to build a membership around, baking or gluten and dairy-free baking. As part of working together in the coaching group, pretty early on, she recognized she was building a business she didn't want. And what she really loved doing was working directly with people, kind of that VA work that she was doing. She now is a Kajabi specialist who's helped people with messaging, with copy, and with building sales pages. And she is thriving and loving her business. See, that's like the little shift. When you make that shift from building a business that feels like you're banging your head against the wall to building a business you love, you will be more successful. And that means there is no way I can tell you exactly what business to build. Now, I could talk with you and after coaching you for a while, then I could. But sitting here, me recording this into my microphone, looking at my camera, not knowing you or your details, I can't tell you. And anybody who's telling you that all you have to do is build something exactly according to their process is missing the fact that we all have to build a business based upon our strengths and our weaknesses. So that's why, at my event, Badass Online Marketing Live, the promise isn't that I'm going to teach you how to build a particular business, because I think that would be dumb. The promise is that I'm going to help you find and build a business that you love and that will make you money. See, you see the little twist there? It's not my business. I'm not going to tell you to build my business or a business like mine. I'm going to help you find the business that you should build based upon your strengths, your weaknesses, and also some marketing principles, fundamental marketing ideas that then once you figure out what you want to do, you implement. That is what I believe is the best way I can serve people. And so that's why we structured my event to do that. But again, ultimately, it's work you're going to have to do. It means you can't expect a magic pill business in a box. And this is whether you come to my event or not, you're going to have to do the work to figure out what business you should be building and how you should structure it, et cetera. Now, if you want to join me at my event to go deeper on this stuff, to go deeper on all of these other things, I'd love for you to come. And if you're sitting here on the fence and you want to get the details, head over to bobbyklink.com/bomb live, BOM live, and you can get all the details. And if you're sitting here saying, holy crap, Bobby's smart, I want to go to this event for sure, definitely go over to bobbyklink.com/bomb live, grab your ticket. As you're listening to this, there's a couple more weeks of early bird. Early bird pricing ends towards the end of October. So don't sit around and wait. because then prices go up. So if you want to join me, head over there now, bobbyklink.com/bomb live, grab your ticket, and we'll be having some fun and helping you figure out the right business for you. That's it for this week. I'll see you again next time. That's it for this episode of the Certified Badass Online Marketing Podcast. Make sure to tune in next time. And in the meantime, go out and build the badass business of your dreams.